All right, we'll call the K-12 subcommittee to order. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Representatives Carringer. Present. Cassada. Here. Clemens. Here. Hurt. Here. Love. Here. Chairman Sapicki. Here. Chairman Reagan. Here. Chairman White. Chairman Haston. Here. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any personal orders before we begin? All right, seeing none, we have a full docket today, so we will try to go through these as smoothly and as quickly as we can. We will go through a couple of these and let you know where we're at. We have a few things to note in the calendar. Let's see. What's the first one we have that's...
Number 7 is off notice, 324. She sent the email
on item number 7?
Item number 7, yeah.
That's Hodges.
Hodges, correct.
Okay. Item number 7, House Bill 324 is off notice. Item number 10, 982 is rolled a week. Item number 11, House Bill 631 is also rolled a week. What's the next one? Anything else?
1305.
What number?
Number 19.
Number 19, House Bill 1305 is rolled a week. And I will say, we did announce that we would have the vaccine calendar today, and we will make sure, for those, we have some people here for that, we will make sure that we get to those, even though they are at the end of the calendar. We will make sure to get those in. If we have to move them up, we will. All right, that's going to bring us to item number 1, House Bill 1410 by Representative Baum. Do I have another motion? Properly motioned. Representative Baum, you are recognized, and I believe you have an amendment on this.
Yes, sir. It is Amendment 5549.
All right. Properly motioned. Would you care to explain your amendment?
Okay. Thank you, Chairman Haston. This bill enacts the Safe Stars Act, which is an act that would...
Before you get started, let me make sure, does the amendment rewrite the bill?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and get all these amendments on, and then we'll get back on the bill if that's okay. Seeing no objections, we'll be voting on Amendment 5549. All those in favor of adopting this amendment, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. We also have one more amendment that was untimely filed. Chairman Sapicki, what's the drafting code that you have on that?
5724.
Do I have a motion to consider?
Motion to consider. Second.
All right. We will be voting on considering this. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. All right. We are on amendment. Go ahead. Read the amendment drafting code that is there.
5724.
5724. And would you please care to explain this amendment, which I believe is a friendly amendment?
I believe it's a friendly amendment too. From the shake of the head, I assume yes. Basically what we're doing is we're adding one section here that Chairman Baum is aware of, where I'm going to read it to you, Mr. Chairman. Each LEA and...
One second. Can we get a motion and a second on this amendment? Sorry.
Motion. Second.
Properly motion. Continue.
Good? Yes. Each LEA and public charter school shall hold an informational meeting before the start of each school athletic season, or, and here's where we're going to add in, or publish a video on the LEA's or public charter school's website for students, parents, coaches, and school officials to learn about the symptoms and warning signs of sudden cardiac arrest, semicolon. That's the amendment, Mr. Chairman.
Question on the amendment.
Second.
Thank you. Questions be called. Seeing no objections, we'll be voting to adopt Amendment 5724. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Roll those into one. All right, without objection, we will roll those two amendments into one. And do I need to gavel that in? Okay, so we are back on the bill as amended. Thank you for your patience. Representative Baum, you are recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Chairman Haston. This bill enacts the Safe Stars Act, which helps ensure the safety and health of our student athletes in public schools in grades K through 12. It's based on the Tennessee Department of Health's Safe Stars program, which is a program that was developed by physicians and athletic trainers at Vanderbilt University. It's a nationally recognized program, considered to be very comprehensive. It has 3 different levels: gold, silver, and bronze, the gold being the most complete, comprehensive level. This bill would require LEAs to meet the standards at the bronze level. The bronze level standards would be required. I should add, though, that many of these standards are already required in Tennessee code, but there are some new ones. Even the new ones are being voluntarily implemented by some LEAs. Let me give you a sense of what some of these are. The standards require LEAs and their coaches, the LEAs to provide their coaches with concussion training, sudden cardiac arrest training, training on CPR, AEDs. It requires them, their coaches, to undergo background checks, fingerprinting, requires them to develop allergic reaction plans, emergency action plans, to develop severe weather policies that include training for coaches on heat illness and extreme weather like lightning. It requires LEAs to develop a code of conduct for coaches. And then at the end of the act is a meeting that now, with your amendment, could be provided in another medium through video, where parents receive information on sudden cardiac arrest symptoms and warning signs, and receive information on the advantages or disadvantages of EKG testing. Parents would also receive information on sudden cardiac arrest, heat illness, and concussions. Basically, this bill combines all of these elements in one place in the code.
Thank you for that explanation. Question has been called. Seeing no objection, we'll be voting on House Bill 1410. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. On to full education. Thank you, sponsor. That brings us to item number 2, House Bill 1174 by Representative Baum. Properly motioned. Representative Baum, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Haston. There's nothing in Tennessee's BEP funding formula that directly provides state funds for the construction of new schools. And yet, some of our LEAs are growing rapidly. Some are adding 1,000 or more new students per year, and some are initiating the construction of at least one new school building a year. This bill would provide state funding to LEAs from Tennessee's general fund in order to facilitate the construction of new schools or other capital projects. The way this would be done is a one-time allocation of $30 million would be put into a fund, and then the Department of Education and the Commissioner of Education would be in charge of developing an application process for these grant dollars, the criteria for how they would be awarded, and would administer the funds. The only criteria that would be required to be eligible for the funds would be that the LEA would have had to have grown in student headcount, ADM, 2% over a 5-year period. The amount that could be awarded would be capped at $7 million, but this bill would allow 39 different LEAs across the state to be eligible for at least a portion of this grant funding.
Members, you've heard the explanation. Any questions for the sponsor? Chairman Sapicki, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Are we trying to tinker with the BEP funding formula here?
Representative Baum.
Thank you, Chairman Sapicki. That's a good question. This does not change the BEP funding formula. This would be funding from the state to LEAs for new schools or capital projects that's outside of the BEP. It's also one-time money in this bill.
Chairman Sapicki.
So basically, you're looking at a $30 million grant here that LEAs who meet the criteria here could apply for, and the maximum is $7 million, so I'm doing my math, and you could have right now up to 39 of them would apply for this.
Representative Baum.
Thank you, Chairman. 39 LEAs would be eligible because they've grown sufficiently. Again, 2% over a 5-year period. So yes, 39 LEAs would be eligible.
Chairman Sabicki?
So I got to ask the question. So it looks like this money is targeted for more robust counties in their growth. How do I answer my rural counties that, with all due respect, Murfreesboro receives $3 million for them to help build an $80 million or $90 million high school versus Tipton County that receives $3 million to help them build their school. The scale there of need is different. So are we relying on the Department of Education to, in scale, it's more advantageous for a smaller county to receive the money than it is for a larger county because they have a bigger tax base? How do we square that?
Representative Baum?
Thank you for the question. First of all, urban, suburban, and rural counties, LEAs, would all be eligible if they've grown 2% over a 5-year period. It would be, the bill leaves it up to the Department of Education to establish the procedure through which the grant funding would be awarded. But the bill does suggest that factors that could be considered would be things like the rate of growth, the number of capital structures that are in existence that might need maintenance, and the capital improvement plan that the LEA has passed that would identify the number of new schools that they plan on building, so that the Department of Education would have a sense of how many new schools are going to be built over a certain period of time. These are just criteria that can be considered. The bill suggests that they be considered, but it's ultimately left to the Department of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions for the sponsor? Chairman White?
My question would be, doing something like this, we under a lawsuit for BEP funding amongst some of our LEAs. Would doing this affect that lawsuit in any way of equity of funding our BEPs?
Representative Baum?
I understand the question. I guess anybody can sue anybody for anything, so I can't guarantee that someone wouldn't come up with a lawsuit, but the money would be provided by the state outside of the BEP funding formula, and so in that way, if we're not changing the BEP funding formula, then it seems like there wouldn't be a cause of action because we've changed the formula in some adverse way.
Thank you. I'm just trying to think of the best way to move forward as we look for more and more money in our BEP as well as all of our schools. And I understand the high growth where you're having to build a school a year because of your population growth. Trying to think through this. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we will be voting on House Bill 1174. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. The ayes have it on the full education. All right, we're going to take a brief recess and check with technology. Okay, just ask Siri. Maybe she can direct us on what we need to do down there. All right. Sorry for the interruption. We'll be going to House Bill, item number 3, House Bill 1335. Do we have a second? I'll give you a second. Representative Baum, you are recognized on House Bill 1335.
Thank you, Chairman Haston. I think there is an amendment. It's 4629.
Do I have a motion on the amendment? Motion on the amendment. Properly motion. Representative Baum, you are...
Okay, this bill provides a way for an out-of-state teacher preparation provider to operate in the state of Tennessee. The motivation for this is partly due to our shortage of teachers. One of the out-of-state operators that has been providing licensed teachers is a nonprofit organization called the American Board. It was a nonprofit organization set up several years ago during the Bush administration by the Department of Education, the U.S. Department of Education, and it was designed to certify teachers who are older, middle-aged, career changers without requiring them to go back through a university in order to get their certification. These are individuals that have a number of life experiences and could be provided with an alternative path. Already in the state of Tennessee, the American Board has a memorandum of understanding with 3 LEAs, the one for Putnam County, Crockett County, and Tullahoma. Nationally, the American Board has provided over 12,000 certified teachers, 3,000 in STEM-related areas. And according to statistics that they've provided, principals at the 3-year mark are willing to retain 97% of the individuals who have been prepared by the American Board compared to a national average of about 80%. What this bill does is it provides a pathway for the American Board to operate statewide in Tennessee without having to sign a separate memorandum of understanding with 143 LEAs.
Thank you for that explanation of the amendment. Does anybody have any questions on the amendment? Seeing none, we'll be voting on adopting Amendment 4629. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say no. Amendment is adopted. That brings us to the second amendment that we have. Chairman Sapicki, do I have a motion and a second? Motion. Second. Properly motion. Chairman Sapicki, you are recognized on Amendment 5324.
Mr. Chairman, I won't be running that amendment. I have an amendment that needs to be.
Okay. We will, let's see.
Motion to withdraw.
All right. We will be on. Does he have an untimely one? What's the drafting code on the untimely filed? 5480. Do I have a motion to consider?
Motion. Second.
All right, we will be voting to consider Amendment 5480. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. All right, we will be hearing Amendment 5480. Chairman Sapicki, you are recognized. Do I have a motion on this amendment?
Motion on the amendment. Second.
There we go. Chairman Sapicki, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, what Chairman Baum seeks to do, I don't have a problem with. I believe bringing as many people as we can to Tennessee to provide quality teachers for our schools is a normal prospect. What the amendment does is it requires this company to go through the same guidance, same approval process, same reportings of all of our EPP providers. That's all it does. It doesn't wish to withhold them from being able to come to Tennessee. It just makes them align with all of our other EPP providers. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for that explanation. Does anybody have any questions for the sponsor on this amendment? Chairman Watt, you are recognized.
I do support that amendment. I couldn't support the bill without it, so thank you for bringing that.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll be voting to adopt Amendment 5480. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. We are back on the bill as amended, House Bill 1335. Question has been called. Seeing no objections, we'll be voting on House Bill 1335. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. On to full education.
Thank you all. Thank you.
That brings us to item number 4, House Bill 1534. Do I have properly motion? Chair Lady Weaver, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Members, I'm trying to get all the moving parts together to present this bill in its proper position for next week. So I'm asking if the committee would give me a roll, please, for 1 week.
Without objection, rolled 1 week.
Thank you.
Brings us to item number 5, House Bill 1363. Do I have a motion? Motion. Properly motion. Chairman Sapicki, you are recognized on House Bill 1363. That was originally Chairman Carter's that you are graciously helping out on. You are recognized.
Members, Chairman, House Bill 63 is Chairman Carter's bill, trying to define a little bit for the BEP what a teacher is for when we start to give pay raises in the future. It is the initial attempt of a temporary cleanup to the BEP to try to give us some more guidance to our locals. And let me just read it to you real quick. Under the definition, a teacher is someone who holds a state license to teach who spends 50% or more time instructing students in class or online. Does not include support professionals, administrators, or supervisors if that individual spends less than 50% of their time instructing students. And this bill further provides that if a state salary increase is proposed in the state budget document or included in the general appropriations bill for teachers and other licensed or certified personnel or staff, then the state budget document and the general appropriations bill must account for the salary increase for teachers, separate from the salary increase for other licensed or certified personnel or staff, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for that explanation, and we will entertain some questions, but we do have someone down that wanted to come forward to speak on this bill. So without objection, we will go out of session. And if Dr. Russell Dyer is in attendance, he's welcome to come forward, and please just state your name and who you represent for the record when you come forward, please.
Try that now. There we go. Good afternoon. My name is Russell Dyer, and I am a Director of Schools for Cleveland City Schools in Cleveland, Tennessee. Chairman Hashton and committee members, did want to first of all say it's been an interesting year, as you know, for educators, but I'm happy to say that we aren't just surviving, but we're also thriving across the state as districts have made innovative changes this year to meet the needs of our communities during the COVID crisis. I'm thankful to our elected officials at both the state and local levels for their work this year to assist us in what's doing best for our students and our staff. House Bill 1363, the definition of a teacher, does sound like a bill that most of us would seek to support. The general idea of the bill is to ensure that teachers across the state are receiving regular raises for their incredible work they do each and every day. That hard work and dedication to the profession has been spotlighted this year as they do an incredible job of teaching during a global pandemic. In no way do I disagree that our teachers are deserving of any and all forms of compensation that are available to them. I wanted to thank the sponsors of this bill for their unwavering support of teachers, and I also want to thank the General Assembly and Governor Lee for supporting our educators through increased funding this year and in past years. That being said, I do want to point out some issues related to this bill that I believe need to be addressed. Point A, in Cleveland City Schools alone, we locally fund 33 certified, 45 classified, and 7.5 nurses over what is allotted in the BEP. Under this bill, I would ask, would the state fund teachers that are outside of the BEP allotment when it comes to defining a teacher, or do those funds only go for the teachers that are part of the BEP allotment? That could be a real issue for us in the local districts dealing with both our local funds and how we fund those teachers that are outside of the BEP. Another point to consider deals with increased benefits associated with raising employee salary. Will new BEP dollars flow to the teachers' compensation to help districts cover Social Security, Medicare, and additional TCRS related expenses that go with pay increases that we offer? Point B. Our teachers are definitely important, and there's no way we could operate a school without them. However, if only the teachers show up for school one day, and the nurses, assistants, school nutrition staff, bus drivers, operation folks, and others stay home, there's no way that we could open our schools. Would raises for these very valued employees be left up to only local funding if funding is only dedicated to teacher raises? And finally, point C, regarding the 50% rule, how exactly would that be monitored? For example, an elementary school counselor would easily hit the 50% mark since they go into classrooms often to do large group instruction. However, a secondary school counselor is more geared toward other types of work. Both affect students in huge ways, but due to the nature of their jobs, they may or may not be actually in a classroom setting as often. Other groups fall into this issue as well. Again, the idea behind this bill is lofty, but the implementation could be problematic. Thank you for your time today and for allowing me to spend time with you regarding this bill.
Thank you, Dr. Dyer, for those comments. Does anybody have any questions for our guest? Seeing none. Oh, Chairman White, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman and Director. Help me out a little bit. What we're trying to figure out up here, and I agree with everything you say, but where this bill came from, every year, it came innocently, as you probably know.
Right.
Every year when we try to put money in the governor's budget to give teachers a pay raise.
Absolutely.
And then they say, well, we didn't get it because all the above that you're describing. So if Tennessee wants to move the pay scale ahead for teachers, how are we ever going to do that when we're in a situation such as we're in, where every time we put more money into the budget, it's spread out so far that it doesn't affect what most people think of a teacher?
You're recognized. Go
I
ahead.
can answer. You know, in Cleveland City Schools over the last 5 years, we've been able to increase overall pay for employees by about 11%. And, you know, we take that seriously, as does our school board, for money that comes from the state, money that comes from any other source, local funding, whatever. We want to put that in the hands of our teachers and our educators overall, which include bus drivers and everyone else that's involved in running a school district. So I think that's a good question, you know, and our school board and you know, what I try to do is give them recommendations that we do spend that money that way, and that we take the money that's coming in from the state to spend in the areas where you intend for it to go. And I think that's the idea behind what most school boards, most school districts do. You know, the pinpoint here would be, you know, if you go about defining that teacher as that 50% person in the classroom, what do you do with those other employees, and what do you do for those teachers that don't fit under the BEP? That's where the pinch comes in, I believe, in this particular bill.
Chairman White?
So it is of your opinion, the way that the language is written in this bill, that would restrict your ability as a superintendent to spread out the money?
I think so. And again, I'm not a lawyer, but based on what I've been reading and based on what I've seen so far, that if you define that teacher in a very limited way, and a raise is implemented at the state level only for teachers, then I think we would be stuck there, and funding that teachers only, and other raises would either have to come from other allocated money coming from the state or from local funds in order to ensure our bus drivers, our nurses, and others are taken care of as well.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, thank you for joining us. We'll be going back into session.
Thank you.
We're back on House Bill 1363. Does anybody have any questions? Chairman Spickey, you have anything else you'd like to say? Chairman Spickey, you're recognized.
The concerns that Superintendent Dyer bring up are one of the issues that we faced long before. I think probably all of us have been here. Maybe a couple, maybe no, but this is an issue that's been ongoing with the BEP. I'm talking about you, Chairman White, Chairman Reagan. We get into this issue where we say a 2%, we say a $200 million increase, and what we do is we insert that in the instructional component of the BEP. In that instructional line of the BEP, everything that the superintendent has talked about, they can address at the local level. They can give the pay raise to bus drivers, they can give the pay raise to food staff, librarians, they can give it to everybody that they've approved to be hired above the BEP. That's the flexibility that they have. Basic education program. Now, one could argue that maybe to move Tennessee forward in education, it needs to stop being basic education program and maybe superior education program. That's a debate that we have to have as legislators up there, and what we can afford as a state to move Tennessee forward. But right now, we currently fund the BEP. Is the BEP adequate enough? Maybe that's a discussion that we all need to sit down and have with input from the locals. But the issues that we've had, and as a county commissioner in Murray County, I face the same issues, that the state allocates a certain amount of personnel and the locals hire above and beyond that. And here we sit with this issue. What we're trying to do in this bill is define what a teacher is. The bill doesn't say that if we do give a pay raise, we can't give an increase to the instructional component. You're doing a great job. That we can't give a pay raise to the instructional component of the BEP and the teachers. There's no limiting factor in this bill. All we're saying is if the governor and we decide to give a X amount of pay increase to our teachers, and we want to also fund X amount in the instructional component line, at least the locals know where we have the intention of spending our money. So I hope that's an explanation there. I think we do have a larger issue here that we need to tackle. It is basic. We can look at awesome and supreme education program if we want, but that's a bill for another day.
Anybody have it? Chairman Reagan, you are recognized.
Thank you. And Chairman Sapicki, the issue that was raised by our guest, how is that going to be resolved, or will it be resolved with this bill?
Chairman Sapicki.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Chairman Reagan, for the question. What this bill does is it allows us to delineate when we say we're going to give a raise to a teacher, it sets forth guidelines of what that's going to be. It doesn't limit the ability of us to also put more money in the instructional component for other personnel in the local level. But what we do is we say all the time, and we've all been part of this for a while, we give an X amount of pay raise for teachers. And then our teachers call us on the phone and say, hey, I never saw that. Or I saw $400 in my paycheck when I was supposed to get $2,000. We all know sitting here, we have multiple issues with the BEP we need to work on and address. Please don't construe that this bill in itself is a limiting factor. It's an identifiable factor that we can put a certain amount of money here and also a certain amount of money to fund everybody else.
Representative Clemens, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I think you addressed my concern with your last statement there, because I think this wouldn't be necessary if, in my opinion, we fully funded the BEP and then compensated our school systems for all the teachers that they actually hire and have to hire. Because right now they're in a tough situation of figuring out how to pay for them, and that's why they're not getting the raises, because that money's having to go elsewhere and compensate for other things. So I think it's important to note, and I think you did that, and I appreciate you representing it accurately, that this isn't going to solve that problem. This will simply provide a variable, so to speak, that we can delineate from when we're addressing this issue. And also, the other issue I had concerns about was, this. I don't want this in any way preventing us from adequately paying our parapros and support staff. And I think you addressed that issue as well. So thank you for that. And if you have any clarification or want to follow up, feel free. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
I think it was said perfectly.
Any other questions? Without objection, we'll be voting on House Bill 1363. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say no. The ayes have it on to full education. Okay. That brings us to item number 6 by, House Bill 1342, Representative Carringer. Do I have a motion? Properly motion. Representative Carringer, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the members. I am bringing this bill, HB 1342. I know I do not look like Representative Ogles.
One second. I think, do we have an amendment with this?
Yes, and that makes the bill.
Okay. All right, properly motion. Since it makes the bill, let's go ahead and get it on the bill here. We'll be drafting number 4781. Is that what you have?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We'll be voting on adopting Amendment 4781. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. We are back on the bill as amended. You are recognized, Representative Carringer.
Okay, thank you so much. As I was saying, Representative Ogles is out, and at the last minute I agreed to come and present House Bill 1342 for him. Essentially what it is doing is when teachers are required to work remotely and provide virtual instruction to students, that they will have to take a leave while on a leave to take day while they're on virtual school. So if they're doing virtual and they need to take a day off or whatever, they need to take that as a leave.
You've heard the explanation of the bill. Does anybody have any questions for the sponsor? Question has been called. With no objection, we'll be voting on House Bill 1342. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. On to full education. Thank you. All right, that brings us to item number 8, House Bill 1332 by Representative Harris. Properly motioned. I believe we have an untimely filed amendment. Do I have a motion? Motion to consider. All right, we will be voting to hear Amendment 5477. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. All right, do I have a motion on Amendment 5477? Properly motioned. With all that, we are now on Amendment 5477. Representative Harris, you are recognized to explain your amendment.
All right, thank you so much, Chairman, and to the committee for this opportunity to explain this bill. HB 1332 would ensure that an LEA or public charter school would not prohibit a child placed in foster care from participating in a school-sponsored student activity or event based solely on the child's residency placement in foster care. This has been an issue in multiple districts, and after speaking with TSSAA, school districts, foster parents, and even foster youth about the impact, I'm glad to be able to bring forth this legislation. I have a constituent who fosters young men, and on multiple occasions that has been an issue. A young man in her care, his name is Cameron, he tried out for the school football team back this past fall, and he made the team, and everyone was extremely excited for him, even the coaching staff. Soon the coach found out that he was in DCS care and informed him that he could not play due to the TSSAA residency clause. So the school told him that if he touches the field, that he would be disqualified or fined. Cameron was absolutely devastated, and you can only imagine how damaging this could be for someone like Cameron, an opportunity to do something that he loves, to continue to gain social skills, his motivation to want to be involved, and to get denied playing a sport because of the length of time he had been placed at no fault of his own. The current process is that a school must submit an application to TSSAA for each student. One of the rules is that a student reside in a home with a guardian for at least 1 year prior to playing, and that was put in place to make sure that students didn't jump from school to school to play at the school that they considered a better school. And instead, in Cameron's situation, he's under DCS care, where if a LEA does not complete the additional transfer or hardship paperwork to inform TSSAA that a student may be in DCS care, that they would be held back from being able to play in this process. And so this bill here would kind of more so enforce the rules to make sure that our LEAs follow through to ensure that TSSAA has an opportunity to properly review that application before denying it.
Thank you for that explanation. Any questions? Chairman Sapicki, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Haston. I appreciate the sponsor working with us on this bill, working with TSSAA. I have heard no complaints from TSSAA on this amendment in its current position. So at this time, I'll be supporting your amendment and your bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the sponsor? Chairman White?
No, just a comment. I had a couple of questions, but you did such an excellent job explaining that you answered every one of them.
Hey,
so
good. Thank you
we're
so
going to
much.
support your bill.
Awesome.
Anything we can do to take care of a child in foster care.
Thank you.
Question on the bill.
Question has been called. On the amendment, we'll be voting. No, we've already. Yeah, we're on the bill.
Question on the amendment.
Thank you. Question on the amendment has been called. We'll be voting on Amendment 5477. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. We are back on the bill as amended. Question has been called. Seeing no objections, we'll be voting on House Bill 1332. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Ayes have it. On to full education.
Thank you, committee.
brings us to item number 9, House Bill 44 by Chairman Sparks. Do I have a motion? Properly motion. Chairman Sparks, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, committee. Basically, with House Bill 44 increases the amount of social workers from 1 in 2,000 currently with the BP ratio to 1 in 1,500 students.
Thank you for that explanation. Does anybody have any questions for the sponsor on the bill? Chairman Watt?
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, my only question is, you got a 6.6 million fiscal note. And of course, we believe in social workers. We got another bill adding nurses. We want to do more nurses. Moving forward, what do you think the chances on this moving forward?
Chairman Sparks?
I got a sign-on sheet, by the way. Glenn can sign on if he wants to. You know, it's a great question. I wish you wouldn't have brought it up, though. But you know, here's what I want the committee to understand. You know, and I said this last year, because we passed this last year to the freshmen. We passed this last year. And I'd have never thought I'd carry this bill 11 years ago. I never would have thought it. But here's where this came from. A year and a half ago, we put together a little conference at Parkway Baptist Church. And my assistant, Marvin, and I just put it together. And we invited 2 school superintendents. We invited a judge, Barry Tidwell, Dr. Brian Terry, Tennessee Mental Health Cooperative, other folks that care about we got another commissioner, Steve Irvin. Sadly, he had passed away. He was with the drug court in Rutherford County. And what came out of this was a consensus that I took out of that conference. We had 110 folks, was what Dr. Linda Gilbert said. And I want to share this quote if I could, Chairman. Sadly, she passed away. But here's what she wrote me before she died. She said, "Good evening. I apologize for being so delayed in responding. Please thank Representative Sparks for reaching out. Yes, more funding for counselors will certainly help with the social emotional issues we're seeing. Another area is social workers. They are vital, and in many school districts, they are not able to fund them. I also think it would be helpful for him and other legislators to talk with school superintendents about the issues we're seeing in very young children. This is what alarmed me." She said, "The behaviors of our 6 to 9-year-olds are like nothing we've ever seen before. They're inordinately disruptive and aggressive, and while we're bringing all of our resources into play, there's no place for these children to be assessed and treated. I feel very good about the Department of Education, what they're trying to accomplish in this area, with the emphasis on the whole child. I'm hopeful that the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse will work alongside them to help address the upper tier of children with whom there seems to be no answers." And sadly, she passed away a few months after. That lady right there probably knew more about education than most of us will ever know. A lot of folks had a lot of respect for back in Rutherford County. The department had a lot of respect for. You know, Chairman White, my logic is, you know, maybe we move this pendulum, the needle, just a little bit. You know, maybe we move it 10%, maybe 5%, maybe 20%. But I think everyone on this committee that may not even sign on this legislation would agree that mental health is at an all-time high. Everyone has said it, everyone. And that's what I hope to accomplish with this. Maybe we don't fund the nurses, maybe we can't fund this fully, but maybe we fund something, you know. So I ask for your support on this legislation.
Any other questions from the sponsor? Representative Clemens, you're recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Sparks, I appreciate you bringing this legislation, because I think the key words there in that statement from that lady were the whole child.
Yes.
And that's what we need to address in our school system when able. And, you know, I've said it before, and y'all have heard me say it time and time again, what happens to these children in a community or what they go through in the community comes into that school building and into the classroom. And our teachers are having to address and deal with a lot of things for which they weren't trained, and they don't have adequate resources. They need all the help they can get, and these children need all the resources that we can provide them when they're in our schools. This is one way we can do that. And as I've often said before, we're here to address K-12 issues. Finance, Ways, and Means can address budget issues. So let's send this thing on down the road and let them take care of it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Question's been called. Seeing no objections, we'll be voting on House Bill 44. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. On to full education.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, committee.
This one's off notice, right? So we're at 13. All right, that brings us to item number 12, House Bill 861 by Representative Hakeem. Properly motioned. I believe we have a untimely filed amendment. Do I have a motion to consider? All right, what's the drafting code that you have on that before we take that? I want to get that down. 5687. All right, we'll be voting to hear 5687. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. All right, do I have a motion and a second? The ayes have it. Do I have a motion and a second on 5687? Motion. Properly motioned. You are recognized on Amendment 5687. Representative Hakeem.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members. What the amendment does is, I'm going to use the term, limits more the scope of what is being proposed as changes when it comes to lead in water in the school systems in schools built before 1998. And essentially what it says is that instead of the 20 parts per billion, it would be moved to 15 parts per million. And what this would do would put us in line with federal guidelines. Other than that, there's no changes to the guidelines as they stand at this time.
You've heard the explanation of the amendment. Does anybody have any questions on the amendment? Seeing none, we'll be voting to adopt Amendment 5687. All those in favor of adopting this amendment, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. We are back on the bill as amended, House Bill 861. Representative Hakeem, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, Mr. Chairman. I would hopefully move for passage.
Anybody have any questions on the bill? Seeing none, we'll be voting on House Bill 861. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. No. Noes have it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members.
Thank you for your time. All right, well, brings us to item number 13, House Bill 1228 by Representative Sherrill. Do I have a motion? Motion. Properly motioned. Representative Sherrill, you are recognized. I believe you have an amendment.
Thank you. Let me turn that on. Thank you, Chairman and members. Yes, we do have amendment 004878.
All right, do I have a motion? Properly motioned. You are recognized on Amendment 4878. Does this make the bill?
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll go ahead and get it on the bill here. We'll be without objection. We'll be voting to adopt Amendment 4878. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. We are back on the bill as amended. Representative Sherrill, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm here today with this bill, House Bill 1228, and the reason I'm coming today is because I have a lot of people that's come to me even before I was elected in 2016 wanting the opportunity to vote on their superintendent of schools. And it was changed back in 1982 from being elected to today of being appointed. It was changed. And I told them that I would try my best to look at this, and I have not tried to carry a bill with it. Now, I know there's been bills carried on it before to see it's been changed to elected, but my bill is a little bit different than some that has been in the past. This bill has an option in this bill where the past has been changing it from appointed to being elected. So today this bill is not here to change the qualifications of a superintendent of school. We're not trying to do that today. All we're trying to do primarily today is give some freedom back to the people, the voters, that you could have an opportunity, if we have the blessing from you and the good Lord above to get this bill back home, that people back home can have that opportunity to maybe elect their superintendent of school versus being appointed. But if you want to, in your county or your district, want to continue on appointing your superintendent of school, great. If you want to, in your district or county, if you want to have the opportunity to elect your superintendent of school, hopefully, if this will go forward, you'll have that opportunity to elect. That's what we are here today. We are here down here in Nashville working for the people. I hope that we are listening to the people, what the people want. Yes, we have good superintendents. I'm not here trying to beat up the superintendents. I'm trying to come and be a voice for the people in the 43rd District, and hopefully, as you're coming to be a voice for your people in your district and trying to see what we can do to help the people and give the people the freedom back. Our freedoms are being taken away from us every day, right? And let's give our people back the freedom. Give them an opportunity. We're not trying to change the qualifications of a superintendent of school. We're just trying to give that freedom to the people. So primarily, just a small thing here, all we're doing, you have the option in this bill to continue on appointing your superintendent, or have the option to let the people elect your superintendent. I've had a lot of people, even down here, I've had a lot of people, members that likes this idea because there's an option in it. There's not just a one way. I've had different ones that come to me, and I even had some sign on to the bill. We're not trying to take money from nobody. And we're just trying, as teachers has come to me, and board members, school board members, has come to me and say, we'd like that opportunity. They can't say a lot in front of their superintendent of school, and I understand that, but they want that freedom. And I just asked you today if you would consider, if we would today, to try to move this forward and let some more people voice their opinion, what they feel about it, the members. And I appreciate your help and consideration on this bill if you would do that today.
Thank you for that explanation. We do have someone on the list that did want to testify on this, and so without objection, we will go out of session. And Dr. Weeks from Dixon County Schools, if you could come up and just for the record, make sure to state your name and who you represent, and try to keep your comments to around 3 minutes, and then we'll open it up for some questions.
Thank you, committee members. I do come today as the superintendent of schools in Dixon County. I am the Middle Tennessee representative of the Mid-Cumberland District, so I am elected by 16 school districts right here in serving Middle Tennessee. Obviously, I come to oppose the bill as presented. As you know, school superintendents are chief financial officers, chief executive officers. We're also bus specialists, food service specialists, personnel managers, finance directors, weather predictors, and this year, COVID managers. Our jobs are very political in nature, as you can imagine. If you want to know what the political opinions of most directors of schools, you can check out websites, social media. I can assure you that we are much too busy to be running our school districts and running political campaigns. I need to be making decisions that are in the best interest of students, of my staff, of my teachers, and what's best for education, not what's best for my political campaign. I respect the jobs that each of you do in running for a political office. I know that's bound to be a tough position to be in. There is a checks and balance system for directors of schools. I report to my school board. I'm hired by my school board. I'm selected by my school board to do that. I'm in my 9th year as a superintendent, and I would say to you today that if if this bill were in effect, I would not be a superintendent because I've chosen to, I was recruited from Robertson County to Dixon County, where I've served in 9 years, had above average ratings and above average approval rating from my board. I'm accountable to them each and every day. My contract could be terminated within 15 days if needed be. So I assure you that we are in that situation. I'm not alone by myself. In the Mid-Cumberland District, there are 16 superintendents. 4 of those superintendents were recruited from out of state: Millard House in Clarksville, Montgomery County, Kathy Beck in Cheatham County, David Snowden in Franklin Special Schools, and Donna Wright in Wilson County. Another 3 of us are all have transferred districts. So again, we have crossed district lines to take positions in other districts in the state of Tennessee. If I had to be a resident of that district and then run for that position, I certainly that cannot happen. I would finalize my comments by saying, again, we're very busy about improving education in Tennessee, not trying to make a popular decision that's dependent upon the ballot box. Committee members, I thank you for your time today.
Anybody have any questions for our guest? I did have one. I noticed on the time frame here, I think with the election in August, it says that if there was a new director that came in, it would be September 1st would be the start date. That seems to be a pretty tough area for a new director to come in on a start date of September 1st. When does your school year usually begin, even if you go back to in-service?
Our fiscal years run from July 1st to June 30th. Most superintendent contracts, I think, take place early June because they're hired to start that new school year to go through the budgeting process. There are just multiple problems if it's transitionary between something like that. So.
Thank you. Any other questions? Representative Hurt, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I appreciate your comments and understand everything you said and totally respect it. But I guess the question I would have, according to the amendment here, it's a pretty high threshold. 2/3 municipal legislative body or county commission, then a referendum from the voters. If a district can meet that threshold, I'm afraid how to phrase this, what would be the drawbacks to allowing them to pursue that if they could meet that high of a threshold, in your opinion?
First of all, thank you for the question. I think mainly this is really an antiquated method of selecting a superintendent. I think there are only a few southern states that still do that, and a few of those states are moving away from it. Again, we moved away from this process in 1992. Basically, again, I think you would be more politicizing the position. I make campaign promises to hire certain teachers, fire certain coaches, hire or promote certain people to those individual processes. And so I think the more the office is politicized, I think the more danger is of taking away from my role as a professional educator and becoming more of that political structure. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Chairman White?
You brought up a point. Thank you, Chairman. You brought up a point that I really hadn't thought about. You said you're originally from Robertson County?
Yes, sir.
Now you're in Dixon?
Yes, sir.
If we had elected superintendents, really you got people who basically live in that district for years and years and probably most of their lifetime. Having elected superintendents, would you feel like that would limit maybe the quality or the quantity of say a good superintendent moving around if Dixon was looking for a good when they found one in Robertson County?
I'd like to think that, and Chairman White, thank you for those comments. But yes, sir, it does limit it would certainly limit the pool to those who are candidates in that county. I'm very happy. I was very happy to be recruited. But again, the school board sets those criteria as they set search criteria for a new director of schools. And so, they can value how important it is that a person either be from that county or from outside of that county. Again, I don't have a number of superintendents that are not from their original home counties, but it would take away opportunities for promotion, professional growth. If I were to seek a position in another county, I certainly cannot leave my county, go establish residency somewhere else to seek a political office.
Thank you.
Chairman Sapicki?
Thank you for coming to testify today. The relationship that you have with your board is a board and you're an employee.
Yes, sir.
They can terminate you when you're not doing your job, as you said, 15 days.
Yes, sir.
If you're elected by the people of that county, we're going to run into an issue is, do they have the ability to remove you now? Right?
Yes, sir.
So then you could have a little bit, one could argue, you could have the autonomy to do what you want as a superintendent. The board still has to approve it because it has to go to the county commission for funding. Do you believe we might be creating an adversarial relationship that may already exist between school boards and county commissions? Are we going to make an adversarial relationship between now, the superintendent and the school board, with what we're trying to do in education on move forward? What do you think?
Chairman, I think that's absolutely correct, because if I'm elected by the people, I report to the people, whereas now I report to the Board of Education. I can see all kinds of conflicts. Who signs my check? Who gives me direction? What methods do we use in instruction? What textbooks do we use? What direction do we go as a district? And so if I'm accountable to the people and the school board has no influence over my contracts, it's purely a political office.
Chairman Spiggy?
The one thing I'm afraid of is, under the current format we have, if you do something that gets sideways with your board, and the board, I think, is elected by the people.
They are.
That if you get sideways with them, they can terminate you immediately within 15 days.
Based on my contract.
Based off your contract,
yes,
or whatever the contract states. And if you give them cause, it makes it even quicker.
Yes.
What I'm worried about is where we're trying to go in education right now. The system we have right now, and this is no disrespect at all to the idea of what the representatives come up with here, is we put ourselves in a position where, are we doing what's best for the kids? Because as a superintendent right now, you have to answer to your board, and that board has to answer to the people. Or are we going to create a situation where a superintendent may or may not care what his board thinks and goes in a different direction if we have elected superintendent? I see what we're trying to do here, and I hear the local control thing. I do hear it ringing in my ears. And I keep hearing my father say, be careful what you ask for. So that's my comment.
Somebody else has a question? One other thing I wanted to ask. When you are up to be rehired, what are some of the things that come up in conversations that the board is looking at to evaluate the job that you're doing?
In each superintendent's contract, the law requires that we as superintendents be evaluated publicly on an annual basis. And so on an annual basis, each of my board members has the opportunity to evaluate me on the criteria that we established in my contract. That must be done in April or May, preceding my contract being renewed, in my case in June. Each superintendent's contract is a little different, and the terms of their evaluation are based on their negotiations when they accepted that position. But again, it's a joint document that's developed between the superintendent and the Board of Education, so that again, the evaluation reflects the values of the board, which then in turn reflect the values of the community.
But I'm guessing that it's data driven. It's it has a lot of.
Yes, sir.
Just get a couple examples.
Mine are community relations, instructional leadership, personnel management, budgetary management, long range design, implementing change, and then certainly it has the data components surrounding testing.
So I guess one of my concerns is that right now we have this in place, and I know every situation may be different, but you have a school board that's evaluating specific items that are, I think, targeted towards the development of education programs in our school. And, what's going to be the criteria of how you're getting evaluated when it's up for a vote? I mean, are they, I think a lot of people would take it seriously and want to know those details, but I would want the ones that are in the know on those kind of details of what matters, making those decisions over, you know, frankly, I'm a former coach. I would hate for you to hire me as a coach and I lose 3 times in a row in the first round of the playoffs, and that reflects on you somehow about you possibly getting rehired.
Yes.
But anyhow, thank you for your. Anybody else have any other questions? Chairman Reagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In those criteria that you mentioned, I did not hear you mention student performance. Are you evaluated at all on the overall performance of the students under your supervision?
Yes, sir, I am. That was the last component I said. Based upon our state accountability model, I'm accountable for those same things. Our ACT score, our attendance, our graduation rate, TCAP scores, all of that is a portion of my evaluation.
But only a portion, it's not the primary portion, is that correct?
My contract either has 6 or 7 components, and those are all equally weighted.
Thank you.
Any other questions for our guest? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We'll be going back into session. We're back on House Bill 1228. Representative Sherrill, do you have any other comments before I open it up for any questions?
Again, Chairman and committee, I'm not here to say bad about the superintendent of schools. I'm just here trying to hopefully be a voice for the people and that we can give them back that freedom that they'd like to have. And it was changed in 1992. And I'd just like for you to, if you would consider, if we can talk about this more, if we can get it through subcommittee today, I'd appreciate it, and we can talk more about it in the full committee, and I'm at the will of the committee, and I appreciate you very much, whatever your decision is. So.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for our sponsor? Representative Carringer, you're recognized.
I don't really have a question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had signed on to this when Representative Sherrill came to me because I represent District 16 in Knox County. And I have been involved in elected and appointing our superintendents. But every year, come time for General Assembly to convene or get together and all, it's in every meeting I'm in about we want to elect our superintendent again. And Knox County just went through on the charter review. We're one of the few states that have elect county law director. And we just went through that. Regardless of whatever my personal view is, I'm elected by the people in my district, and we put it back out on the ballot and voted. And again, the people in Knox County said, we want to elect our Knox County law director. Same way that I keep hearing and have heard for years and years, ever since it's been changed, and particularly District 16. So I am here on this because there is a difference, and before it's been brought up, no, we want to elect. The thing that Representative Sherrill is saying, let's take it back to the locals, let each local county decide, and they don't have to do anything. They don't have to change anything. But we are here at the will of the people, and so I am voting with Representative Sherrill, and as I've spoke to everyone, they all know why. It's because my district elected to send me here to do their job, and I have to represent them here, and this is the majority of what my people. So I'm just saying, leave it, let Knox County Commission or decide if they want to change it or not. But I'm like always bringing it back to the local people because every area is different. And I agree with everything that's been said, and I'm just like Representative Sherrill, not here to start up anything. I'm just representing District 16, and this is what they have wanted for some time. And so however our committee decides on it, or each county. So that's the big difference. It's not that we're saying you have to elect.
Chairman Watt, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Does anybody know why we changed it in 1992? What the history is? Was it not working? I don't know. I'd like to find that out.
I do not know, sir, why it was changed. It was changed in 1992 under Ned Ray McWhorter's administration. Is when it was changed.
It wasn't that long ago, so I'd like to find the answer to that, why the General Assembly felt that they should change it.
Chairman Sapicki, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Sherrill's worked very hard on this bill. There's a lot of passion on both sides of this. I don't know if we have enough information to make a decision right now, so I'm going to make a motion to send this to summer study for more clarity, Mr. Chairman.
That's a proper motion. Seeing no objections, we'll refer to summer study. House Bill 1228.
Thank you, Chairman and members.
Mr. Chairman, point of order. Did I hear a second on Chairman Sapicki's motion? Or actually, did I hear a motion and a second? You made the motion. Who made the second, Mr. Chairman?
There was no objection.
Yeah, I was asleep at the wheel, so forgive me for that. But with that said, you still have to have a second. Am I correct?
Well, I'll go on the record as a second if we need to.
All right, I was asleep. Forgive me.
All right, that brings us to item number 14, House Bill 1288 by Reverend Johnson. Do I have a motion? Properly motion. Representative Johnson, you are recognized on House Bill 1288.
Set it right with the department, so I would like to actually roll those 14 and 15 for 1 week.
All right, without objection, we're rolling House Bill 1288 and House Bill 1289.
Correct.
1 week. That brings us to item number 16, House Bill 1291.
Motion.
Properly motioned. You are recognized, Representative Johnson.
Thank you. So we've heard a little bit already about social workers, and this bill, what this bill does is also increase the number of social workers, but it does to the level that is the industry standard. What research says is effective and works, and that is 1 per 250 students. Social workers serve as a liaison between school, home, and the community. They're experts in research-based school discipline policy. They can increase school connectedness and decrease incidents of misbehavior and school violence. They are extensively trained to manage or deal with crisis and are equipped to assist school administrators and teachers in a crisis, something we are seeing more and more frequently in our schools. Because I taught students with emotional disturbances and behavior disorders, I worked a little more closely with social workers. And I just want to give you an example of what a difference it could make. In 1 week, I did home visits with my social worker because I had an assistant in my class. We went to one house and we found out the student was absent because he only had 1 pair of pants and 1 shirt, and he was embarrassed to let anybody know that, and he was embarrassed to come to school. And so that was something the social worker solved in 2 days. An easily solved problem, but how long would that have gone on if we didn't have that information, if we couldn't go to the home, if we didn't have somebody to speak to? We found another student that was staying home with a young sibling because the parents had lost their child care. And so they had to stay home with the young one because the parents could not miss work. We found that one of the students was missing school because their mother was very sick. This girl was so concerned because her mother was not able to go to the doctor, but was so concerned that something would happen to her mother that she was not coming to school. And we had another situation where a student got a job because his dad lost his job. And all of these things were found out because it was a visit by the social worker to home. All of these students ended up graduating, and they wouldn't have graduated if we had not solved that problem. And so everything that social workers do, they're able to solve these problems. They can go to the home, work with the community. They are so well suited to do these things. The reason our kids are not being successful, the reason our kids are not reading by 3rd grade is not because teachers aren't teaching hard enough. It's because they don't have the supports to help them succeed. And social workers can provide those supports. That's the purpose of my bill.
Members, you've heard the explanation. Anybody have any questions for our sponsor? Chairman White, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. And I can agree with everything you say. I mean, we had one a second ago about 6.6. But I cannot in good conscience pass a bill out with a $146 million recurring note to finance and a $70 million recurring note on our locals. Can you care to address that on our local?
Happy to address it, yes.
Representative Johnson?
Sorry. We are underfunding education right now. We're 46th in the nation. We have to spend $100 more million to catch up to Alabama. If we don't seriously invest in our young people, if we want to stay in the bottom 5 or 6 of funding, we can do that. But you know what we can do is, instead of in a couple of months putting $250 more million in the rainy day fund, invest $150 million in these social workers so our kids get what they need. We need to invest in our young people, and we have to make it a priority.
Chairman Reagan, Chairman White, follow up. Chairman Reagan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question basically goes back to, have you sought an opinion from the AG on whether or not this is going to impact existing lawsuits over the BEP?
Senator Johnson?
I have not. However, I don't think there are going to be, there's not going to be a lot of problems when we're actually bringing solutions. This is going to fit it's equal benefit to all school districts. But I have not sought an AG's opinion.
Chairman Reagan?
Follow up on that then. How are you planning on allocating these social workers? Because the core of the lawsuits, as I understand it, has to do with what is perceived as unequal allocations of the resources through the BEP. If we're going to allocate more resources, whether they're social workers or whatever, it looks to me like we're still facing that same problem. Your bill does not seem to address that. Is that correct?
Representative Johnson?
The bill actually does. It's 1 to 250 no matter where you are. And so in rural areas is the same as urban and suburban.
Chairman Reagan?
Again, I don't want to appear contentious, but that is the way we do business right now. Allocating nurses and other issues that are in the BEP formula, yet we're still having lawsuits over that unequal allocation. I question whether or not, as worthy as this sounds, and you've made a compelling case, but as worthy as it sounds, I can't see how we can avoid exacerbating the lawsuits that are already in place and not, shall we say, creating more.
Representative Johnson?
And I understand that, but how long are we going to wait for these lawsuits to be settled and do nothing? I don't think our kids can wait.
Representative Clemens, you're recognized. I'm sorry, Representative Love, you were on the list before that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I certainly thank all my colleagues for the comments. Let me thank you, Representative Johnson, for bringing this legislation. As I was grateful that Representative Sparks also brought his, and I'm so very grateful that we have a committee system that can look at all these myriad funding issues, and we can always find some money in the budget, because I know that one report is that we've had revenues come in a little bit higher than we thought they would. And so I would applaud you for this effort, and I would encourage my colleagues, as we are backlogged with so many bills, to encourage Finance, Ways, and Means to tackle this issue of how to fund this issue. But the premise of your bill is excellent, to get more social workers into our school systems to help our children overcome these issues, dealing with all the mental health challenges that they faced pre-COVID and now in COVID. So I will certainly be supporting the bill. Thank you for bringing it.
Representative Clemens?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate this legislation. Representative Johnson, I like it even more than the last bill, and I'll spare the committee. I spoke my piece on the last bill, but I think that, when we're talking about helping children respond from a pandemic or recover from a pandemic, this is one of the most important ways to assist our children moving forward. Addressing their needs with social workers and providing our teachers with assistance is vital. And when you have social workers that are overworked and can't do their job, they can't identify the needs of children, they can't identify the children who have the issues that need to be addressed, and then work with those children on the back end, you're not really addressing the needs. So this is so very important. Thank goodness, again, we have a committee process, as Representative Love said, that can address the fiscal issues or figure this out. But if we're going to spend money, we might as well spend it on children and the education system and make sure every child has an equal opportunity to get an education. And that's what this bill seeks to do. So I thank you for this legislation. And it has zero to do with pending litigation. Thank you.
Any other questions for our sponsor? Chairman Sapicki?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't think anybody's going to argue with the intent of your bill. We've all basically said the same thing. I think only thing we have to be very careful with in this committee is what our intentions are to finance. What's important to us is what we send to finance. We have a massive teacher shortage in our state. We just got done with one of our superintendents talking about pay for our teachers. We need to be sending a message that we need to close that gap in our classrooms. I agree with you. Social workers, great idea. But we have to prioritize this. We've got to figure out a way to get better teachers in our classrooms. We have to find more qualified teachers somewhere in this, because they're not coming out of Tennessee right now. We need more numbers of them. And I think if we send this bill forward as it is, we're sending a message to finance, because they're going to be considering what we send them as a recommendation. So.
Representative Johnson?
Yeah, I can make you a promise. It'll be much easier to find teachers and high-quality teachers when their school is supported with social workers and they have the support of these social workers in place. I'll promise you that.
Any other questions for our sponsor? Seeing none, we'll be voting on House Bill 1291. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. No. Noes have it. The bill does not pass. That brings us to item number 17, House Bill 1293. Do I have a motion? Properly motioned. Representative Johnson, you are recognized.
Thank you. So this bill, what it does, we talk a lot about reading by third grade level. And so when you talk to reading specialists and reach out to teachers, one of the best and most proven things we can do is make sure that teachers have a class size where they can spend the amount of time needed with every child. This bill caps kindergarten, first and second grade at 15 for priority schools. Only 4 priority schools at this point. I think it is worth trying to support those who need it the most and seeing what this can do, because what you will see will be in huge increase in what these kids learn and the knowledge that they gain, because we know that this is proven to show these kids will be doing better in all of their reading scores after they have that lower caseload. There's the research, as well as just in talking with teachers. I sent out a thing to all teachers just saying, let me know what you think about this. And I got, there was this one year I had only 16 students, and it was unbelievable. Every kid of mine came out of that classroom with every skill they needed. And it was a lot of anecdotal evidence, but it also just goes to back up what the research says. So what we do a lot of times, and even what we did in special session, was we created a summer school and we created after school. Not all kids can do summer school. They're not required to. Not all kids can do after school. We've got a situation where what's happening a lot now is kids are being removed from their arts and musics and those kinds of things in order to double up on reading, the things that they don't do well at. And we know that art and music enhance their reading and gaining math skills. So why not make sure that a teacher has the group size so that they can reach every student and that every student is ready to move on when they go? And that is the reason I brought this bill.
You've heard the explanation. Does anybody have any questions for the sponsor on the bill? Seeing none, we will be voting on House Bill 1293. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Noes have it. The bill does not pass. We are on to item 18, House Bill 1294 by Representative Johnson. Do I have a motion? Motion. Properly motion. Representative Johnson, you are recognized.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This one also, I've got to make 2 word changes. So if I can roll that to next week.
Okay. Without objection, we'll be rolling House Bill 1294 1 week.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee.
Thank you. Representative Clemens?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I was just going to inquire, looking at the hour, are we going to do the vaccination calendar today, or how late do we intend to go, just out of curiosity?
I do think since the rest of these are committee member bills, we will move over to item number 26 in the calendar, House Bill 1421. Do I have a motion? Okay. All right. We'll roll him a space, and we will take up item number 27, House Bill 1403. Properly motion. Representative Hall, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and colleagues. House Bill 1403 is very simple in nature and just is all about common sense. There's been religious exemptions from vaccine laws from the 1960s. This basically just requires schools to be totally transparent and give full disclosure when communication goes out about immunization, that they also must include and disclose information about religious exemption. And that is my bill.
Thank you for that explanation. We will get to some questions. We do have some guests here that had requested to speak on the vaccine bills. So without objection, we will go out of session and invite our guests up. And if you would, when you come up, just please make sure to say your name and any affiliation that you would like to recognize, and try to keep your comments to 3 minutes before we open it up for questions.
Is that on? Okay. Good afternoon, Chairman Haston and committee members. Thank you for the privilege of speaking with you today. I am Dr. Dee Senard, and this is my twin sister, Dr. Barb Dentz. We're medical doctors with specialized training in pediatrics. Both of us are fellows in the American Academy of Pediatrics, and we are speaking to you today on behalf of the Tennessee chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics. Most importantly, we are speaking to you today on behalf of Tennessee's children, because each of the 3 vaccine bills that you'll be considering today could impact the health and safety of our children. Over 95% of Tennessee parents choose to follow the expert advice of their pediatricians. Over 95% of Tennessee parents choose to have their children protected from an array of infectious diseases that can be serious, contagious to susceptible individuals, and even deadly for some. Only a very small percentage of Tennessee parents use a religious exemption to refuse vaccines that are otherwise required for school entry. First, we want to remind you of the importance and power of immunizations. Vaccines have prevented more than 21 million hospitalizations and 732,000 deaths among children born between 1994 and 2013. When 90 to 95% of a community is vaccinated from a disease, it's unlikely to spread. This protects the entire community, even those who are too young to be vaccinated and those who cannot be vaccinated for medical reasons. Unfortunately, we have seen routine pediatric immunization rates fall dramatically during the pandemic. Our pediatricians, family physicians, and other healthcare providers have worked diligently to get these kids caught up with their vaccines in order to prevent serious and costly outbreaks of other non-COVID vaccine preventable diseases, especially as in-person classes resume. Now more than ever, we need to be encouraging vaccination, not discouraging it. Finally, even though COVID vaccines are not yet approved for children, we are all counting on the COVID vaccines to expedite an end to the current pandemic, to enable us to fully reopen our economy and to return to everyday activities. Right now, we don't have enough vaccines to get to one to everyone who wants one, but as the supply of these vaccines ramp up, we will be facing another perplexing problem. We will have plenty of vaccines, but we will need our hesitant family members, friends, and neighbors to trust that vaccines are safe and effective. We need to be building confidence in these life-saving vaccines. House Bill 1403 ensures that parents are aware of their right to refuse vaccination for their child based on a religious objection. We would hope that House Bill 1403 is amended as the Senate bill was to make clear that the Tennessee Department of Health's current forms meet the requirements. In our view, House Bill 1421 and House Bill 1215 are not at all helpful in building public confidence in the COVID vaccines or in our routine childhood vaccines. House Bill 1421 points to a time when students would be forced to get a vaccine against the will of their parents. We don't do that now, and we don't foresee that ever happening in the future. Even if a licensed COVID-19 vaccine should be required in the future, parents would be able to get a religious exemption as they do for all approved vaccines now. House Bill 1215 requires the General Assembly approval for the Commissioner of Health to make any additions to the current schedule of required school vaccines. It is our understanding that laws already exist that provide public comment periods and legislative oversight for such rule changes. Again, if the health commissioner ever did get approval for a new vaccine requirement, parents would still have an avenue to make sure that their child would not be vaccinated against their will. In Tennessee, religious exemptions are available for parents to refuse vaccines for their own child. In closing, vaccines are safe, vaccines are effective, and vaccines do save lives. Please support the vast majority of Tennesseans who want to keep all of our children healthy and protected from vaccine-preventable diseases both today and in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for our guests? Chairman Reagan, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A point of clarity. Are you objecting to the parents getting additional information? Is that correct?
Not at all. No, we just hope that that this will be amended like the Senate amended it, that the current Tennessee Department of Health's forms would meet the requirements that are in this bill for the additional information.
Chairman Reagan?
Is this form sent to all parents like the notice of required vaccinations?
Yes.
I have information that indicates otherwise. Based on information I was given, which I'm willing to be corrected on, the school sends notice to parents that your child must have the following things to enter school, one of which is a list of vaccinations. And so the question, as I understand this bill, is are you objecting to the notice also being put in there that parents can object on a religious basis?
I think the misunderstanding is that the health department form has that information on it. It has the religious exemption information on it. And so the Senate bill says that if that is included with any communication from the schools, that would fulfill this requirement. But this also, it's not that you would have to include that if you also included information about the religious exemption with your communication, is my understanding.
I'm sorry, you need to clarify that for me just a bit more. The form we're talking about here, based on what you just said, if I understood correctly, is or is not that form that you're talking about that was added on in the Senate, is that sent to the parents along with all of the list of requirements they have to have for vaccinations to enter school?
If it is included, if that is included, this amendment says that it would fulfill this requirement because it has religious exemption statement on it.
Chairman Reagan.
Okay, I still haven't achieved the clarity that I need here. The objection that was raised here, based on what the sponsor said, is that the notice that tells parents that they have to do this list of things for their children for school entry should have a notice to the parents that, on the conditions of which they must object. And as I understood what you said, you don't think that is the case. Is that correct? That should not be the case?
I'm not sure I understand your question. I'm not clear. I'm sorry.
All right, let me try a different way, Femi.
Chairman Reagan and Clemens.
We don't. I mean, we would like to see your House bill amended in the same way that the Senate amended their bill, to say that if a school in their communications to the parents includes with that communication the health department form that already exists that explains the parents' right to a religious exemption, that inclusion of the Tennessee Health Department's form with their communication would fulfill the requirements of this bill. That's what, and we agree that parents, should be made aware of that, and we agree that the health department form should fulfill that. Our understanding, and again, this is our understanding, that the health department form, actually the religious exemption section, is in a larger font than the rest of the form. So it wouldn't, and without that amendment, it wouldn't fulfill this law.
Representative Clemens.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the misunderstanding here is they're not saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're not saying that every child gets this. They're saying if a child gets this, it satisfies the requirement of the bill, because the certificate from the Department of Health contains all the information that's being requested by the sponsor already. So they're not telling you, you can correct me if I'm wrong, they're not saying every child gets this. They're just saying if they do get it, it accomplishes the purpose of the bill and should qualify for that reason.
Yes.
Representative Love, and then I'll come back to you, Chairman Reagan.
No, I was just trying to bring some clarity, Mr. Chairman, because I think that was a disconnect. And I know sometimes people get nervous when they sit there.
Yes.
And so I wanted Mr. Chairman Reagan to be able to ask his question of, does every child get the form, and then wait for you to respond, yes or no?
Right now, like in the past, has every child
2021, March the 23rd. As of today, does every child get the form he's asking about?
No, and yes.
Yes, yeah, I'm just here, I'm the peacemaker.
Yes, no,
here.
I'm sorry. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I don't know exactly what every school has sent out,
Okay,
but
that adds the clarity that I needed.
But I don't think they had to. Yes, for sure.
That adds the clarity I needed on that form.
I'm so sorry.
In the absence of the form, if the parent does not get that form, they still get from the school the requirements for the vaccination. So if they're not getting the form, should not the school also include these exemptions?
Yes, and that's what this bill would do. The amendment doesn't replace that language at all. It just says that if that form is included, that would satisfy the requirements here.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you for coming in. We will be going. No other questions. All right. Oh, I'm sorry, Representative Carringer.
I just see some in the back of the room saying, no, that's not it. And then I see some saying yes, so
Well, they're not on the list.
I know they're not on the list, so
bring
it's
them
still
up.
very confusing.
No other questions for our guests. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, we will be, without objection, we'll be going back into session. Representative Hall, you were recognized again on House Bill 1403 for any other comments before we open up for some questions for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do want to reinforce the fact that this does not change the law. I'm not trying to change the law. This isn't about whether vaccines are effective or not effective. This is about total transparency. This is about full disclosure to our constituents. This gives the parents the ability to claim religious exemption due to vaccines. That's all. Very clean, very simple. It's very cleanly drafted, and it's no more than that. Anything else would be muddy in the water.
All right, thank you. Chairman White, you were recognized.
So my question, this bill, your bill passed out in the Senate as amended that the ladies were talking about, 32 to nothing. So why are you going to amend it, or are you to match up? I mean, if it goes to the House floor, it's got to match.
Well, I'm not real sure what the Senate's going to do. I like the bill as drafted. I like it.
That's my question. I mean,
right
now, if we pass this out the way you have it, it goes to the House floor. We got two disconnecting bills, so somebody's got to match up, and that's why I understand. Why I didn't know why you haven't added their amendment.
Sure,
Representative Hall.
I respectfully ask the approval as drafted, and then I will get with the Senate sponsor and find a solution that works.
Representative Hurt, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I 100% support your bill. My question is there anything in the legislation that requires what the parents receive? Because what I just heard was in the Senate, it's required that form is what they receive.
Great question.
Representative Hall.
I'm sorry. My apologies, Mr. Chairman. Great question, Representative Hurt. They have received nothing, and that's the purpose of this bill today.
But I'm seeking clarity on what we will say they need to receive.
Representative Hall.
The school system will need to receive a statement from the parent.
Representative Hurt.
In writing.
But what your bill is requesting is they receive something from the school stating their and my question is, I don't want to see maybe the parents receive something that the font is small, it's not clear, it's not. So I'm actually looking at it from the point of stating what they need to receive. The form that the Senate required, I haven't seen it, so I can't agree to that. I would want to see it. I would say that we take this to the point that we have requirements of what the parents receive on a form of some sort. I don't know how that looks, but that's just my thought process, and I'll stop there. Thank you.
Representative Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Basically, any communication that goes out from the school system addressing immunization also addresses religious exemption.
Representative Clemens.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm afraid this is getting wrapped around the axle a little bit, but I just wanted to clarify the way this bill's drafted, and it references the code and section, but it says any communication provided to students. You're not seeking, just for clarity here, to require this with every communication from the school to the parents. You're just talking about any communication involving immunizations.
Representative Hall.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's correct.
Thank you for that clarification. And I was going to follow up on Chairman White's question of because the spirit of this bill and your intent, as you stated, is simply to make sure parents know the law, which is fair, or to provide that transparency and let them know what the exemptions are, right?
Sure.
So with that, if the health department's communication is provided to the parents, then that would suffice for the purposes of your stated intent. If not, please, let me know why.
Representative Hall.
If you wear belts and suspenders, same theory. I'm not addressing the health department, only educational issues addressing their children with immunization.
Representative Love, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have a question, but I'm going to defer back to you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not going to say anything. Thank you.
Chairman Speaky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the question I have, that if this bill does move forward, by the time this comes next week to the full Education Committee, I would like to know the Senate's amendment, and do you believe it's friendly or hostile towards your bill?
Representative Hall.
I had to just
Chairman
that's
Speaky.
more of a statement saying, please get that information for us. And I'm kind of, hold on here, I'm kind of agreeing with Representative Clemens, is if the health department sends the notice out, we need to know, does that meet the obligation of your bill? And then as far as I'm concerned, you can answer that next week.
Representative Carringer, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, vaccines or vaccinations are done to protect yourself. And I don't think we can ever, I don't want to say ever, but I never think that we should demand and tell parents just like on how to educate their children or that they have to be vaccinated. And so I think the COVID vaccine, first of all, we don't even have a vaccine out there for children. So the schools, I don't think could really be able to send anything home at this point. I took the vaccine. The vaccine I think is a good thing to take, but again, that's my personal decision, and I'll leave everybody else to make that personal decision for their children. So I don't know if we're kind of jumping the gun on it, or, maybe, and I am concerned about what the Senate may have passed or the amendment. So, I don't think anybody should mandate that they have to take this vaccine. And I think that should be left up to the parents, and just like we treat all of our other vaccinations to attend school. So until there's a vaccine, and I realize we do have to be proactive at the point of this because school will start back, but I'm just trying to figure out why wouldn't we allow parents to have that decision to decide if they want to vaccinate, just like we do on all the other vaccinations.
Representative Hall.
No response. I just respectfully ask the endorsement and the passage of this bill.
Question has been called. Seeing no objections, we will be voting on House Bill 1403. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Ayes have it. On to full education.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, colleagues. Thank you. Yes, sir.
All right, we'll go to back to item 26, House Bill 1421. Do I have a motion? Motion. Properly motioned. Representative Grills, you are recognized. I believe you have an amendment. And what is that drafting code? 5551. All right, do I have a motion? Properly motioned. You are recognized on Amendment 5551.
The amendment gives the religious exemption in the case of a pandemic or an epidemic to the parent to refuse an immunization.
You've heard the explanation
for religious exemption. Excuse me.
Thank you. You've heard the explanation of the amendment. Chairman White, you have a question?
Is this written exclusively for COVID-19?
Representative Grills?
The amendment is not. No, sir. It's 49650001 B2 there. I don't know if you have that in front of you.
Yeah.
You probably have it memorized, that part of the code.
Chairman White?
So a religious exemption against the vaccine.
Representative Grills?
The religious exemption that we all are entitled to follows you into a pandemic or an epidemic. That's all this amendment does.
Understood.
Any other questions? We will be voting on adopting Amendment 5551. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed say no. We are back on the bill as amended. You're recognized, Representative Grills, on House Bill 1421.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ultimately, what this bill is designed to do is just to give the the parent the ability to decide what goes in and what doesn't go in their child's arm, strictly with to COVID-19 on this particular part. I am a fan of parental choice. Parents know what's best for their child, not the government. And all I want to do is protect the individual right for a family to decide what is best for their child. And I believe that decision is best made at home and not at a bureaucratic position. So I don't want to see schools forcing, as a condition of enrollment, a COVID-19 vaccine upon them.
You've heard the explanation. Representative Clemens, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kind of a point of order question to the chairman. This is our sole vaccine calendar this session, correct?
That is correct.
Are there any other pieces of legislation pending that would come before this committee that require a student to take a vaccination?
There are some possible captions, but nothing that's been filed or on notice that we see.
Nothing's been taken off the clerk's desk at this time?
No.
So okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And so, to me, that says there is no sign of any potential legislation that we know of that is going to require a COVID-19 vaccine of school children.
Representative Representative Clemens, go ahead.
Well, and please, Representative Grills, correct me if I'm wrong or if you know differently too. And I don't think, and as far as indications, the governor doesn't seem to be wanting or have any desire to force via executive order. Do you know differently than that, or have you heard differently,
Representative Grills?
No, sir, I do not know different than that. You may be correct or you may be wrong. I don't know. I will tell you, back in August, when President Boyd, University of Tennessee, Knoxville, decided to, by executive rule, throw a rule out as a condition of enrollment, you had to take a COVID-19 vaccine when it became available. Government Ops, I believe, has dealt with that since. But that thought process is out there, Representative, and because of that thought process, this is where this bill came from. So I wanted to, there are those thought processes out there, and that is, this is preventative maintenance mainly. You would not disagree, though, that we are best suited to let parents be in control of their child's health care. And that's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking, and I believe that's all any American would ask.
Representative Clemens?
Yeah, I appreciate that. And does this bill cover higher education institutions or no?
Representative Grills?
No, sir, it doesn't.
Okay, I just want to get clarification. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we will be voting on House Bill 1421. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. No. The ayes have it. On to full education. Brings us to the last item on the vaccine calendar, House Bill 1215. Properly motioned. Chairman Sapicki, you are recognized on House Bill 1215.
Thank you. I do appreciate the passion everybody has on these vaccine bills. It's very evident. What House Bill 1215 does, there's been an issue that's been brought up that is a process with the Department of Health. Currently, we have what is required by our students to take to be able to attend our schools. This bill in no means changes any of that right there. What it means is going forward, in the past, the Commissioner of Health, if he wanted or she wanted to add a new vaccine to that list for our students, that they would run that by a council, health council. In 2008, the health council was taken away. So now the Commissioner of Health can make a ruling that he wants, and all he has to do is run it through GovOps and get the approval to make that rule change. We're talking something very serious here. It's injecting our children with a vaccine. And so what this bill does is it creates a process for the Commissioner of Health. He would go, or she would go to the health committees of both the House and the Senate, get a vote and be able to pass that forward, and then bring it to the full General Assembly for an up or down vote, simple majority to approve adding a vaccine to what's required for our students. It's meant not to be cumbersome. What it's meant to do is to provide oversight so that the entire General Assembly, if we want to add vaccines that are required for our children, the members of the General Assembly will know it's being added. That's all.
Thank you for that explanation. Representative Clemens, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And would this same committee or committees be able to remove current vaccinations from state statute?
Chairman Sabicki?
No, that's not the intent of the bill, just ones that are getting added in for our schools.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, we will be voting on House Bill 1215. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. It's on to full education. All right, we are going to move to item number 22 and take care of House Bill 777. Do I have a motion? Properly motioned. Chairman Sapicki, you are recognized on House Bill 777.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do believe we're working off an amendment.
Do I have a motion?
I believe it's 5558.
All right, properly motioned. You are recognized on Amendment 5558.
It does make the bill if you want to add it in.
All right, sounds good. Let's go ahead. Without objection, we'll be voting on adopting Amendment 5558. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. We are back on the bill as amended. Chairman Sapicki, you're recognized.
Committee, I know it's been a long night. I'll be as brief as possible. This is the governor's hold harmless bill for our local school systems. We talked about this last week. You know, we passed I'm just going to call it the 2% BEP on growth. That bill, I believe I'm going to just go ahead and leave that bill alone. This is what we originally intended for our LEAs. The simpleness of this bill is just this. Whatever the LEA received for the 2020-21 school year, they will receive for the 21-22 school year, and if there was growth, they would receive the additional growth funding. It is only for the 21-22 school year, and to be in compliance with this, you have to do all your normal reporting to the state. It is our simple hold harmless. We would have passed this back in special session. We didn't get the clear thumbs up back then, but we do have the clear thumbs up right now. So this is the bill I'll be running as our hold harmless solution for our LEAs. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right, before we do that, we did have somebody down. I'm not for sure is Mr. Randy Frazier. All right, we will go out of session briefly to hear from Mr. Randy Frazier. And just for the record, please state your name and who you represent, and try to keep your comments to 3 minutes. We are going out of session.
Can you hear me now? My name is Randy Frazier. I'm superintendent of Weakley County Schools. I've been director of schools for 12 years. I also serve as a treasurer of the Subcommittee, and I've served on multiple occasions to testify in front of the TASSER Committee concerning the BEP, and heard a lot of conversation about the BEP, and there are a lot of issues with the BEP. But I would say with 100% support across the state with all school districts, we're in support of this bill. Thank you to the sponsor. There are a lot of issues that COVID has brought before us as leaders of our school systems. In my district, we opened the doors to our children on August 17th last year. We've been able to keep our schools open the entire year, but we have a lot of children who decided not to return to school. A lot of kindergarten children across the state, parents were unsure whether to send their children or not. They were not required to go because they were 5 and not 6. And so we anticipate having a lot of those children back this year. Without having that additional funding, that will be an issue for districts trying to fund those classrooms and support those staffs. And we also feel, as many districts have made accommodations for online learning, we have some parents who have chosen not to school their children, period. We have a lot of children in our state who are not doing any type of schooling. In districts, we don't have the capability to track those people, and it's been taken out of the courts for truancy to do that. So we feel like at some point, those children are going to return to our district, and they've not been included in that number. So thank you for sponsoring this bill. We want to provide those services. We know next year is going to be very important for us because all children that we need to come to summer school are not going to come for various reasons, and that gives us opportunity to provide extra services and keep things the way we need them to be next year. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier. Does anybody have any questions for our guest? Chairman Watt?
No question. That's why. How do you put up with Mayor Jake Bynum up there? Yeah.
It's pretty easy to do. He's very supportive of our schools.
Yeah. Tell him we said hello.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, hold on one second. Mr. Frazier, we had one more question pop up.
Excuse me.
Representative Clemens?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to ask you, you mentioned truancy. How does that play into this bill?
Well, I'm sure that we'll follow the normal truancy policies. What we have found was we have had a hard time in tracking our students that didn't return. Normally, when a student does return, they've enrolled or been required to enroll somewhere else, or they've been enrolled in a homeschool setting, and that's not happened this year. And so we have, I know in my district of 4,000, we have about 100 less students than we anticipated, just don't really know where they're at. Now, the ones who signed up for our online program, we track them, and they follow the attendance policy that we set forth for online learning.
Representative Clemens?
And so my question there is, do you have any concerns to the extent if truancy is at issue here with this bill, do you have any concerns about the flexibility the department has to determine truancy levels or rates?
I don't have that concern because all districts are following the law. We're doing our very best to uphold that law, and I don't think anyone's out of compliance with that. Now, it's become more difficult because we have become the attendance police, and we don't get a lot of support sometimes with our courts being closed at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll be going back into session. Thank you. We are back into session. Chairman Sapicki, you're recognized. All right, any questions? The amendment's already on the bill, so we've adopted the amendment already. Yeah, yeah. So without objection, we will be voting on House Bill 777. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. On to full education. We're going to try to push through a couple more. I know it's been a long night. We're going to try to get through a couple more.
Mr. Chairman, I got a point of order.
Sure.
It's historical and it's precedent that if a committee works past 6:30, the chairman buys pizza. Just point of clarity.
Second.
I will have pizza next week. I will have pizza here for you guys. Then, if that's tradition, I want to stick to tradition on that.
Appeal the decision of the chair.
Okay. That brings us to item number 20, House Bill 525. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Probably motion. Do we have an amendment?
Yes, we do, Mr. Chairman. It's 5481.
Do I have a motion? Properly motion. Does it make the bill?
Yes, it does.
All right. Let's go ahead and vote to adopt. Without objection, vote to adopt 5481. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. We are back on the bill as amended. Amendment is 5481 is adopted. Chairman Sapicki, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Haston. But very simply, back in the special session, we promulgated emergency rules for the hiring of teachers that was going to hopefully apply to the 21-22 school year to give LEAs flexibilities in hiring end-of-course teachers. The problem was we never put in permanent rules that would allow the emergency rules to take effect. The emergency rules would expire in July. So to prepare for the 21-22 school year, to maintain the flexibility with what we don't know is coming in 21-22, all this bill does is to extend what we did in the special session to the 21-22 school year on flexibility in hiring. Special ed is outside this. You still have to have the endorsements to teach special ed.
You've heard the explanation. Does anybody have any questions for the sponsor on the bill? Questions been called. Seeing no objections, we'll be voting on House Bill 525. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Ayes have it. On to full education. That brings us to item number 21, House Bill 462. Do we have a motion?
Second.
Properly motioned. Do you have an amendment with this?
4503, Mr. Chairman.
Properly motioned. Does it make the bill?
That's right.
Yes. Does it rewrite the bill?
Yes, it does.
All right. So without objection, we'll be voting to adopt Amendment 4503. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. We are back on the bill as amended. Chairman Sapicki, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is addressing our graduation rate and our remedial coursework for our colleges, for our incoming freshmen. The Department of Education has been working hand in hand with me on this to get us in a position on this bill. We're going to gather data over this next school year so that we can figure out exactly what are the causes of the high remedial coursework and come up with a solution for this committee to bring forward as a bill. That's all it does, just gather information to figure out what the problem is, work with the Department of Education to come up with a solution, and we'll have a bill next year for everybody.
You've heard the explanation. Does anybody have any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, questions have been called. We will be, without objection, we'll be voting on House Bill 462. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed say no. Ayes have it. On to full education. Without objection, we will roll the rest of this calendar into next week's calendar. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion granted. We stand adjourned.